and welcome back to Stardew Valley, a mod a day. I'm actually recording this episode 11 weeks after the first one, as I've now gotten back from my trip and I'm getting back into recording and streaming. Hopefully I haven't forgotten too much of what happened last week, but we'll see. Now, back when I first pitched this series, I scrounged up 14 suggestions for mods to include, which means we are fully set through this week. However, if you guys would like to see more of this series, we're going to need some more suggestions. As of recording this, I have 5 suggestions. If I don't get 2 more by the time you guys are watching this, well, I might not be able to record the next episode in time for it to come out next week. Which means, if you guys want to see more of this series, be sure to leave your mod suggestions in the comments below. Alright, but now that's out of the way, let's go see what's waiting for us. Between the last episode and this one, I have added the Zelda Items Pack, which adds some iconic hats and several weapons from the Zelda franchise. So, why don't we start by heading off to the Adventurers Guild and seeing if we can buy one. Before we go though, it has been over 2 months since I last tended to my crops, so I really need to give them some water. In that process, I also decided I should really invest in a well, so I rounded up my 75 stone and made a quick trip to... Of course she's closed. Okay, hold on. 10 minutes later, I can't really decide where I should put my well, but I finally tucked it right next to the farmhouse, and I can always move it later as my fields grow. With Robin set to start work tomorrow, it is on to the Adventurers Guild. On my way there, I managed to find an old boomerang and a sword just kind of buried in the dirt outside. And while we're outside, it seems like a good time for a quick rummage and oh, sorry Marlin, I didn't see you there. I tried to go in, only reminded of 2 things. 1, the guild doesn't actually open until 2 p.m. And 2, I'm not actually a member of the guild yet. Which means we need to go mining so I can kill 10 slimes and be initiated. After descending down 5 floors and utterly failing at inventory management, I was thankfully able to kill the slimes I needed in time for the guild to open. Checking out their inventory, they've got 3 Legend of Zelda themed weapons up for grabs. Biggoron Sword, the Kokori Blade, and the Master Sword. Seeing as the Master Sword, blade that destroys all evil, Bane of Ganon, and demises 4 heads is incredibly cheap, obviously I'm gonna buy Biggoron Sword. I mean, just look at that damage comparison. It's more than double what the Master Sword does. Sure, it's a bit slower, but doing some test swings, it really doesn't seem like it'll be that big of a deal. The Obsidian Edge, I'm pretty sure, is slower, and that's usually my main weapon before I get the Galaxy Sword. But with our shopping done and our inventory very full, I think it's time we dropped off our newfound treasures at Gunther. But now before I crack open a geode, I mean, it could be anything. We could get another grand treasure, we could get some cool artifacts, we could get some ore, and we got 5 rocks. Thanks, Clint. As thanks for donating to the museum again, Gunther gave me 9 cauliflower seeds, which I'll go ahead and plant. Once I'm done watering my crops, there's actually something else I want to do today, and that is fishing. You might be surprised by that, given that I mildly hate early game fishing, but there's a reason. I don't have a lot of energy, and it takes a while to get to the beach from my farm, so I wasn't able to spend a lot of time fishing, but I ended up with a herring, an anchovy, halibut, and this autographed photo of Rodney. I guess he's a best-selling author. I mean, that's kind of cool. But with our energy levels thoroughly exhausted, it is time for bed, which means time to add a new mod. Today's mod is yet another fishing mod. Yeah, that's why I wanted to go fishing yesterday, so we could have one last experience of doing it properly in this world before I made it incredibly easy on myself. Our in-game lore is that, well, our farmer spent the evening fishing and suddenly mastered the art of reeling in fish. And while the weather says it's going to rain tomorrow, today is still sunny, so we must water our crops. And we have our first harvest of the week. 3 parsnips, 4 bite-back melons, and 2 carrots. That's not bad. With the chores done and our new fishing mod in hand, it seems fitting that today be spent at the river trying to get some fish for the community center. Now, while I spend the day fishing, let me talk a little bit about this week's theme. Last week's mods were all about getting our world established, expanding things, meeting people, setting our shaders, putting in fresh contacts. This week is all about making things easier for ourselves based on the mod list I was given for the first 2 weeks, starting with today's fishing mod. And with an exception for yesterday and tomorrow, This week is all about utility, utility, utility. I'll be honest, I spent the entire day fishing, except for when I left to try and sell my fish, and I learned some fun facts. Number 1, Pierre doesn't buy fish. Number 2, Willie is never home when I need him to be. Number 3, Clint wants to inspect 5 coal, but when I try to hand them to him, he just says thanks for the gift. Apparently, it needs to be fresh coal, and I did not read the fine print. Alas, we will have to do that tomorrow. But I accidentally completely exhausted myself fishing, which wasn't great, but we managed to get a really nice haul for our time, and level our fishing straight up to level 3, which is pretty cool. And we earned enough money to invest in a better backpack, so obviously we'll be doing that, even though I really should be saving for a chicken coop. It's fine. Now, remember how I said this next day was another exception to the utility theme? Well, this week, the Carpenters of the Ferngill Republic have gotten their act together and released a whole lot of furniture. That is right, I've added the H&W Furniture Suite. I'm talking the outdoor furniture recolor mega pack included, farmer's market, core, bakery, fishmonger, butcher, and wildflower, romantic fountains and arches, bathroom furniture, fairy garden, indoor and outdoor, greenhouse, romantic furniture, winery, pantry and clutter, decorative plants, and Ripley's kitchen packs, and more. If it is H&W and it's furniture, I added it. And to make things easier on ourselves, I've also added the H&W Everything catalog that puts all of the furniture from these packs into a single catalog. I've also added their buildable buildings so that as our farm expands, we can have dedicated and decorated buildings for those types of product. Yeah, this is probably the biggest addition I've added, and we're not going to have a ton of profit off it for a while, but once our farm starts getting cleaned up and making profit, we are going to be gorgeous. Apparently, H&W also has some food recipe mods that would pair really nicely from some of the buildings, but I felt like that was straying a bit too far from the furniture theme, so if anyone would be interested, I'm just saying the comment section is right there. Anyways, with all of those added, let's get back to the game. Since it's raining, I can get right to work without having to worry about the chores, and oh, we got mail! Aww, Dad sent us 500 gold, and Sandra gave us her shortbread recipe. That's awesome. I still need to give Clint some coal, so we'll be heading to the mines today. But first, I really need to get a backpack upgrade. So I'll just head over to Pierre's, and he's closed. It's Wednesday. Right. After punching Morris in the face and promising Demetrius I'll catch 2 smallmouth bass for him, I head to the mines. I managed to get my coal pretty early on thanks to a convenient minecart, but I decided to keep going and at least get to the next elevator. The next floor was, of course, overrun by monsters, and that is where I discovered that Bigoron's sword slices through them like a hot butter knife. I mean, sure, I still had to find every last one of the Dougies, but actually killing things? Piece of cake. With the mines finished, I headed off to go sell my loot and then do some fishing. On the way, I found some carrot seeds and a magical book that promised to increase my defense. I also spotted a copper garbage can that I'll need to check out later, since my trash diving skills aren't nearly high enough for its standards. On my way to the river, I caught Cambria outside of Pierre's. She wanted to know if I was settling in alright, and even told me a bit more about how the request board worked. I didn't have the heart to tell her I had 2 quests from that very board written into my journal at that exact moment. Something seemed a little off when she went to leave, but she claimed she was fine. I'll have to check on her later, assuming I remember to do that. A quick trip to Clint later, and I earned myself a prize ticket and a nice little bundle of gold. I decided to try and get my fish first before heading to Mayor Lewis's to cash in. A few hours later, I'd only caught 1 smallmouth, but apparently even that was enough to appease Demetrius, so I just had to track him down to get my reward. I also got 2 catfish and a fossil for Gunther. Sadly, he's closed, so that'll get donated tomorrow. I stepped into the saloon to check for Demetrius, and I caught Keanu telling a wild surfing tale from when he used to live here as a kid. I also found out that apparently he has a sister, and is kind of salty that everybody appears to miss her, but didn't really miss him as much. Ouch. Apparently there was also some kind of tragic something that happened with his parents, and that's why he moved back into town. I kind of feel like we need to give him a hug, and not just because Gus incredibly subtly hinted that we should be his friend. Very subtly. I talked with all the saloon patrons, but there was no Demetrius in sight. It was starting to get late, which meant I couldn't go to his house to drop off a fish, so I decided to head home for an early bedtime. I managed to level up combat, fishing, and vending today, as well as make a nice little profit. Too bad I'll be spending a good chunk of it tomorrow, but that's future Jay's problem. Present Jay needs to add another mod. It is finally time for my single favorite mod in all of Stardew Valley. That is the UI Info Suite 2. Frankly, I think I deserve some kind of medal for holding off until day 11 to add this, as I will add it to even my most vanilla of playthroughs. This mod is more than just a useful add-on. It is a basic necessity. With our most helpful tool now added, we have a pretty simple day before us, and we're even starting off with good luck. Andy met me at the door, wanting to warn me about the crows that flooded his crops, but thankfully we have a scarecrow and are perfectly safe, so he left to go add some more of those to his fields. With a slow morning ahead of us, I decided to sort out my chests into things I need for community center and things I don't. I also got a few letters. Willie's selling a new fishing rod, there's a mouse selling hats. Oh, and Robin lost her favorite axe. Oh no. Well, thankfully, our well was done being constructed, so I was able to get all of my crops watered and head into town to start my rounds. First things first, now that Pierre is open, it's time to get our first backpack upgrade. Man, that feels better. The bookseller is also in town today, but he's kinda stupid expensive, so yeah. Clint found some gems in my geodes, and when I gave them to Gunther for the collection, he gave me some melon seeds. Those will be more useful next season when I can actually plant them. I headed to the woods to look for Robin's axe and caught some of the town's kids hanging out by the sewers. Apparently, they were complaining about the smell, which it's a sewer, and complaining that it was locked because they wanted to explore it. Apparently, Marlin has the key, or, well, he has a key. The kids got spooked by something moving around. I figured it was probably a rat, but I went to investigate anyways. I couldn't see anything, but those noises were spooky. Anyways, I found Robin's axe nearby, and I met the Hat Mouse. He has a golden trash can I can only dream of one day opening. I grabbed the Kokori hat because it was really cute, but the attached bangs don't really vibe with my look, so into chest void they go. I talked to Demetrius about the fish and gave Robin her axe. On my way to Lewis's to turn in a prize ticket, I caught Sandra tripping over some loose stones. Thankfully, Sebastian and Sam were there too, and they ended up carrying her bags back to East Scarp, although she seemed a bit annoyed by all the time Sam kept calling her a little old lady. At least they were talking about music when I left my earshot. I made it to Lewis's house, and he told me how to work the prize machine. He's a bit worried that the system will make people more interested in prizes than helping others, but I quickly assured him that I just want to help. Now, please move out of the way. I want to get my prizes. I got 12 carrots. Well, I can plant them and sell them at least. I decided to put in some work on the forest bundle, which meant it was time for some farm cleanup. After logging for several hours, I had little to show but more fiber and a couple of acorns. I wanted to make a furnace, but I need a lot more copper, so I turned in for the night and headed off to Dreamlands to add another mod. Today, we'll be adding the Look Up Anything mod. This is a really useful mod that's pretty much the Stardew Valley wiki in the game. I can see this one being more helpful as I continue to add mods to the series, but right now I kind of have a good handle on things, so this is more setting ourselves up for the future. The traveling merchant is in town today, so we'll need to make sure we drop by later. As I headed out to do chores, I received 2 letters. One from a woman named Susan, introducing herself. Apparently she's stuck on her farm north of Robin's. There was some kind of landslide, and Joja is responsible, which really just sounds about right. The other letter was from Mayor Lewis, telling me about tomorrow's Egg Festival. Now that is exciting. I took care of my crops and checked in on the bundles. Apparently I need a kale and not a green bean, but that's okay because Past Jay bought some kale and I'll be able to harvest it tomorrow. I'll just have to take it in after the festival. I went down and bought a rare seed from the trader, and then decided to head to the mines to try and get a lot of the copper I need for my furnace. On my way, I actually bumped into Mayor Lewis, and he told me a little bit more about Susan, and how JoJo is kinda dragging their feet on getting the rocks moved. Apparently, they wouldn't have the job done until early summer. Oh, poor Susan. At least it sounds like the train runs near her farm, so she's not completely cut off. I went into the mines and proceeded to exhaust myself. I had to get a bit creative with the cherry bombs and backtrack a few times in order to get enough bug meat to make some quick steaks. Ugh. Thankfully, my pocket's very full. I managed to hit level 30 at 1:30 a.m. Oops. I was so exhausted, and it was so late, that I passed out above the lake on my way home. but hey, at least I leveled up my mining and combat. While I slept to recover energy, I went in and added the fast animations mod. This is pretty much what it says on the tin. Certain in-game animations can be sped up and configured as desired. The biggest area this helps in is making Clint swing his pickaxe at light speed while cracking geodes. That's going to come in handy after the festival, since I've got a few of those while I was mining. But enough of that. Today is the Egg Festival. It's our first festival in Pelican Town. Let's get going. I went to check my mail and discovered a handwritten note from Linus. Apparently he found me lying in the dirt and brought me home, but mentioned someone in town had stolen some money from me. He didn't get a good look at the culprit though, so we'll have to keep our eyes out. I managed to sort out my stuff for mining. There's a few artifacts I want to give Gunther, and I got these rice seeds from some monsters. I'm not going to think about that one too much. Thankfully, my mission was a success, and I have enough copper to make a furnace. So what if I can't make a copper bar out of the leftovers? That's a later problem. After taking care of my field, I ended up with my biggest harvest yet. Some carrots, a few cauliflowers, some potatoes, and a piece of kale. I sold the excess, realized I would need gold star potatoes and not gold star parsnips, which means I need to hurry and buy some potato seeds tomorrow. But I made it to the town for the festival, bought a few extra seeds from Pierre, and yapped with everyone I could find. I was both scolded for and encouraged to think about entering the egg hunt. I mean, obviously I'm going to participate. It's my first event in town. If they wanted things to be easier for little kids, the little kids should have their own egg hunt. But the hunt was soon on. I made a lap around the town, grabbing every egg I could both see and make a hasty retreat from gathering. I managed to get 10 eggs with an 11th just out of my reach when the whistle blew and it was time to count our findings. With my 10 eggs, I was able to claim victory. And a straw hat? Well, it's kind of cute, I guess, so I'll wear it for a while. Before going to bed, I made sure to plant and water my strawberries so they could get a start on growing. With the excitement of the day finished, I went in and fell asleep, dreaming of painted eggs. For the last day of this week, I'm going to be adding the better shipping bin. No more accidentally dropping things in and never being able to recover them. This mod will let us manage our sales a bit better and keep things nice and clean for Lewis. And we do have a fair bit of things to do today, so let's get to work. First up is, of course, chores. We have a new biggest harvest ever yet, and I was able to turn all of those spring forageables into new spring seeds. I won't be planting all 60 of the seeds, I just don't have the time in the day to water all of that, but I will be keeping them on hand for future harvests. I gathered up my spring crops, as well as a flower for Haley's birthday, and headed into town. While I was waiting for Pierre to open, I managed to score a stuffing from Gus's trash can. At Pierre's, I bought 20 potato seeds. I'm hoping that's enough to get 5 gold star, as by the time they harvest, I should have pretty good farming skills. But I also got a few flowers to help that skill, as they will be finished growing before the potatoes. I dropped off the spring crops at the community center and was rewarded with some speed grow. Since I got exactly 20 of it, I'll be putting it on the potatoes. That should help me have enough time to do an emergency second harvest if I don't get enough gold stars out of this first batch. In completing a bundle, I unlocked the boiler room. I went over to investigate, and while the engineer bundle will be a bit annoying, I feel like it's not too bad overall. There are certainly worse bundles to get. I headed over to Haley's house and gave her a flower for her birthday the second she opened the door. This was very much appreciated and not creepy at all. Don't worry about it. Present dropped off, I headed home and gathered up my geodes and artifacts. I debated for a bit on whether or not to give Gunther my quartz and decided just to do it. They're pretty easy to come by, so I'm not worried about getting more of them. As thanks for my contributions, Gunther gave me a starfruit seed to plant next season. I almost went home to get my fishing rod, and then I realized it's been a while since I've gone to East Scarp, so I headed that direction to explore. I got to see Sig Bear trying to bring some bees into the house, something Sandra was quite opposed to. I can't really blame her though. Apparently, he has an entire honey operation in the cellar. I should stay away from that. I made a small lap around the scarp and then decided to head home and use my geode findings to start my first copper bar. I cannot wait to get started on copper tools next week. I also managed to level up my farming skill, which is a really good step towards getting those gold star potatoes. But with the moon rising as we sleep, it is time to wrap up this episode. Thank you guys so much for watching. We didn't add any really exciting mods this week, unless, of course, one counts the 20 minutes I spent installing the H&W furniture suite. Yeah, that was fun. But we got a couple of good mods that are going to be very much useful for us the further we go. Like I said at the start, if you have any mod suggestions, please leave them in the comments below, or head to my Discord, where not only can you drop suggestions, you can even see my schedule for what mods will be added on what day every week. I also run giveaways and send fun photos of my cat there, so if that sounds up your alley, be sure to check the description for the invite. As always, I'm Jay, and I'll see you next time. Until then, goodbye!